All right. We're here with our first St. Jude patient family guest, Miss Jill Wagner. I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself and who your sons are, and then we'll kind of walk people through this. I don't want to call it sad because it's not sad, but I know when you're going into it, you're pretty devastating.
It's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. And our story's kind of long. But my name's Jill Wagner. I have two boys. Blake is my oldest. Tucker is my youngest. They're 17 months apart, so our life was a little bonkers for a while when they were young. But so they're close in age. Blake graduated from Free State last year. And Tucker is a junior this year. Tucker, well, first off, do we want to do a grit update for the week?
We have done that.
Great. I kind of got keyed in upstairs.
Okay.
That's what a lot of people are like.
I can give you the grit update.
No, I talked a lot, but I didn't know if everybody else needed a grit update.
Yeah.
So Tucker is going to be 18 in a couple weeks.
Wow.
He was diagnosed when he was 15 months old. So we've been at this for a while. Diagnosed when he was 15 months old with a craniopharyngioma. It's a brain tumor, not cancerous. Technically benign cells, but classified as cancer because of the treatment that it requires and the damage that it does to other parts of the brain. So it grew right in between his optic nerves and pituitary gland, which is kind of straight in the middle of the head. When he was diagnosed, he had started like dropping toys and couldn't find them and just cried all the time and was frustrated and, kind of feeling his way down the hallway, and just thought, I think he might need glasses, So took him to an ophthalmologist. They sent us immediately to our family doctor, who sent us immediately to LMH, who sent us immediately to Children's Mercy. It was just quickly diagnosed, which was great. But not great. So within 3 days of diagnosis, we had gone through all the stuff at Children's, started out here in Children's in Kansas City, and he had surgery. In June of that year, they put in, so his tumor was not, it's below the blood-brain barrier. Everybody has to go back to like health class. Systemic chemo would not reach it. So they put in what was called an Ommaya reservoir. It was basically a straw that went straight into the tumor. And we started chemo that way. They could drain fluid off of the tumor and inject chemo sort of simultaneously. Wow. And started with that. So we did a couple rounds of that. And something wasn't looking right. They did some more scans and determined there was actually a second tumor, like right next to it. So already
same kind of tumor.
Same tumor. Yeah, just separate bodies. It was like two of them, and it's actually like a defect in utero when the brain is developing. It's a group of cells that don't migrate to the right place, and that's where it lands. And they're very commonly diagnosed in kids around age 5 is typically when they show up. His was aggressive and big. When he was diagnosed, it was the size of a golf ball, and that's very big in a little tiny, tiny head. So they couldn't. Yeah. They did not feel like they could operate on it, and because I was just like, okay, get it out, and that wasn't the right plan. And so we did another reservoir into the second tumor and more treatment there, and kind of got it stabilized. His symptoms got better. And they kind of said, let's just sit on it for a little bit. Every day of age for him is a better prognosis for surgery. So we waited a while. November of that year. So about 6 months after he was initially diagnosed, they decided he was starting to have some problems again.
And you're still at Children's.
Still at Children's at this point. So first surgery, then to actually try to get it out, to remove it. And they couldn't get all of it, but what they were able to get hopefully was going to decrease symptoms, decrease, it causing other problems. It did, that surgery wrecked his pituitary gland. So all the things you don't realize your body does for itself started not happening for him. So we started having to do a lot of hormone replacement stuff, just basic every day. His thyroid doesn't work anymore. His adrenal glands don't keep up. His kidneys, need to be told what to do now with medicine. It's actually kind of our biggest hurdle at this point. But so got him stable again, just kind of did I think we did scans every 8 weeks. And about a year later, just all of a sudden, it grew. It just exploded again. So we tried another round of the intratumoral chemo, and that didn't work. He started having seizures. And now we know probably what happened is that chemo had leaked out of that tumor body. And that caused a lot of damage. It kind of got to some of that healthy tissue around. So his vision started getting a lot worse at that point. And so we were working with, teams of early childhood development teachers to try to, figure out how he, we're trying to keep him learning. You guys are in that right now. You got to try to keep him developing too while they're going through all this stuff. So got through another year and it exploded again. Just no rhyme or reason. It just all of a sudden he was just not doing well and having all this pressure and sick and couldn't see. And so we went back, and at that point they sent our stuff off to St. Jude. Mm-hmm. So this was in 2005. He was 3.5. They sent stuff to St. Jude in hopes we could get some kind of second opinion and what's next, because obviously this bleomycin was the medicine they were using, was not going to get it. And
did St. Jude had a study going on? Mm-hmm. Is that why they sent
did?
It over?
And they had a study, and they had some radiation techniques that other hospitals didn't have. Conformal radiation to really get close and not hit those other structures in the brain. And it needed to be less than 2 millimeters or something. I mean, a tiny amount, and they were just really concerned about the damage that it would do to do that. It just might get the tumor, but might not have anything else, right. So we were in kind of limbo waiting for St. Jude to get back to us. And he just had a horrible 24 hours. And we just were like, he was too unstable to ship to send down there. And so we did surgery here. At that point, we were now at KU Med. Our surgeon had moved over from Children's over to KU Med, and we kind of wanted to stay with him. So we followed him over there. So that was the start of the really rough, bad point. He had surgery in December of 2005. During that surgery, there were complications. He had a bleed and had a stroke during the surgery, essentially. So he came out of that surgery with no vision at all. He had a little when he went into it, but the optic nerves had been kind of tangled up in the tumor. And so he lost all of his vision, and he came out with no function on the left side, completely paralyzed on the left side. And it was a waiting game, which was awful. They just kept saying, we just need to, he was on a vent for a few days, and we couldn't even know what he could do. Can he talk? Can he, and it was agonizing. So that was kind of the start of the worst of the worst. Just waiting, every day, like, is something going to come back? Is some vision going to come back?
Were you tempted to just get in the car and drive straight to St. Jude and bang on the gate until they let you in?
At the time, I was we never had a bad experience here. It was just magnified when we got to St. Jude, and I just have to not think about, if we just would have had a couple more days, if we could have got there, what could they have done? It would have been different. And so I don't blame anybody necessarily. It could have happened the same way there. It could have been just what was going to happen. But we just had to kind of keep moving on. And so just rough, he had to learn how to walk again. He had to learn how to do that without being able to see. About 3 weeks into that recovery, he got a staph infection in his spinal fluid. And that was like DEFCON 5 scary. We were in isolation I slept in a chair, like a straight back chair for 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks. We were in, nobody could come in. It was over Christmas. And, I had this other kiddo at home. You guys know that gig. And a sick little guy. And so that was rough. We finally, 62 days in the hospital total. And finally were able to get out, and then went to, back to Children's for in-house rehab there for a few weeks. And then we were able to do Rehab Institute is downtown Kansas City, not too far from Children's. And he did 6 months of full day rehab there to learn how to walk again and get strong enough. He did walk probably within independently, I think 3 months, but he still has to wear a brace to this day. And he never did regain function of anything in the left hand. He's got decent movement in the upper arm, but nothing in his left hand. So had to, get into preschool and trying to learn Braille now and do all of this with just one hand. So that was that. And then, but the tumor was still not gone. So we still had this lurking tumor, what's it going to do? So we just kind of kept watching it, and they couldn't get it all out, but it was at that point just there and not causing any problems. So theory was just to leave it alone till it does. Year later, we could not get out from underneath that 1 year mark. Like we could not get past a year without problems. So early 2007, he had another surgery, and I was just wrecked. Like, we can't do this again. That one, he was in for 2 days. Woke up the next day eating pancakes and what? Okay. So it was just wild. So after that, several years of stability, at least with the tumor. It was just not changing. It was still there, but it wasn't doing anything. We were watching it closely, every 3 months, I'd have scans. And then 2010, it started getting bigger again, and it started kind of growing, getting some fluid back. And at that point is when we finally got to St. Jude, and they said, yep. And at that point he was older, and radiation was much safer. His brain was bigger. There was larger margins around the tumor. And it was just a no-brainer for them. No pun intended, but, so we went down there, and I was just like, another system, here we go again. And I'm going to have to retell all these things and go through all this again, and still fighting all this endocrine stuff. That's a new daily battle, tons of medicine. And I'm going to have to get all that on board down there. And it was just magic. Like, they knew so much about him before we got there and had put together everything he needed. And I had to delay it a little bit. They were ready to go, come down next week. And I was just finishing nursing school.
Oh, wow.
In December, and I needed to finish classes and take boards. And then, so we went in between there and had a surgery. I came home and took boards, and then we went back for radiation, 6 weeks of radiation. And that was it. That got it finally. It's still there. It's still in there, but it's dead now, essentially. Haven't had any growth since 2011. There's some vessels that we're watching that kind of got weakened with that process. That's the biggest concern. But it's what we needed. And
Did you use, you called it, what kind of radiation?
Conformal.
Is that a proton? Okay.
Yeah.
Pinpoint proton.
Yeah. Like super
That's what we
direct.
We had to have that too.
Yeah.
Who's your doctor?
Tom Merchant.
Okay.
Who do you guys have?
Dr. Crazen.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. The team, how they've got your team of doctors, and they basically become the science project to them. They project you up on a board, and everyone's got their job, and we're going to do this and that, and that's why they were ready for you, because they'd already
like,
all these doctors.
You walk around with. I always felt like Tucker just had this like board of what's going on, like, and they just knew, and the communication there is incredible and flawless. Just
it's a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. And like I said, we never had bad care here. I think looking back, there are probably things now I would have been like, but you don't know. And I didn't know. I hadn't gone to nursing school yet at that point. So you don't know what to ask, and you're just so wrapped up and taking care of.
Shocked.
Yeah, and tired, and so we never had bad care here. Children's is great. They've got a great system. KU, what we had there was really just the neurosurgery part, but that was good too. It wasn't ever bad, but it was just a whole nother level when we got there.
Whole different world down there.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about. I think it was the last show. It's just like, Toyotas are really nice cars, but if you want to, Lexus is a Toyota. It's just a little bit nicer, or maybe even a lot of bit nicer. So
it's impressive. It's just incredible. I just can't believe it still every time we're there. I mean, we're finally now just moved into annual checkups.
Yeah, we were down there at the same time.
Yeah.
And Tucker, I've never had the pleasure of having Tucker in class. My wife has.
She had both boys.
Yes. I didn't have either of your boys in class. I know Blake. I don't know if he took culinary from the other culinary teacher, but I don't get a whole lot of the boys that want to take human growth and development. They don't want anything to do with that baby. And I'm like, but all the girls are in there. So I think that'd be a good class for a teenage boy.
But, Tucker he's all about that.
Yeah. So, so we can really get people to understand what this is like for a family. And you had that 8 years with children's and KU Med before you even got to St. Jude. What for your family? What was the effect of? Because you hear, and if there's stuff you don't want to talk about, that's perfectly fine. But what I hear all the time is I couldn't do what you've gone through, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, my gosh, I couldn't go what you've gone through. So, let's try to paint a picture for people what it's like for the family, for Blake, for your husband, and Tucker.
So it was just totally wild, and you're so engulfed. I was very lucky. When the boys were little, I was able to stay home with them. So I was fortunate for that. In the middle of the worst of the worst, Tucker's dad and I got divorced because we needed more things to do right then. So that was rough. That was sidelining something that was, we were probably headed for regardless. But then that just, you either families, couples or families, period, extended families, you go through that and you get stronger together. Or you don't, I think is kind of what I've seen happen to people. There's kind of no halfway with that. You're all in, or that's just my perception of years of watching, families go through this. And
I've seen it too.
Yeah. So. And I think you probably, I think some ebb and flow a little bit, I just can't do this anymore. I'm out, and then they kind of get their breath and come back in But for somebody in all of that, it's constant. For the immediate people, it's constant. For Blake, it was constant. He got totally robbed of some childhood things because he didn't know where he was going to be sleeping that night. He didn't know if he was going to be, his dad worked kind of out of town a lot. And we stayed very engaged and he helped out there a lot, but it's just not his thing. He just couldn't deal. So hard on Blake, and that was hard on me. I felt I obviously have to be here with Tucker. I was the constant, but so much guilt about, I'd see him for, a couple hours every few days. That's not what a 4-year-old, 5-year-old needs, and I just felt like I was failing, one and doing everything I could for the other. And so that's tough. I had great support. The whole town is supportive of, we had great friends.
You guys in Lawrence at the time too?
Yeah. Yeah. My family's all here. My parents are close. My brother and his wife are close. And so everybody was helpful. I was never worried about Blake, I knew he was always in a place that he was well cared for and having a good time and getting everything he needed, but it just wasn't for me. And that didn't feel good. That was hard for me.
Right.
So, and then, just all this stuff. They just take the back burner so many times, and, we can't do that because of this, or we got to go home now because Tucker needs his meds, or, so a lot of, I think he came out okay. I guess we'll find out someday, if there's an intervention with him and I. But he was an easy kid from the very beginning. He took it like a champ. I hope that there's parts of it that helped him grow, as a person. I do think he sees things differently. He's very introverted, the whole high school gig was never his, the big, lots of people around. He probably should have been a little small town school boy, but.
With Blake, what I noticed, and I guess, I'm not an expert on kids, but I guess I'm as expert as I can be because I got 10 years of experience being around him every day.
Bless your
right. He's got a bright smile, and he's a polite and kind young man. And I think for kids that go through and experience truly difficult times, and not just, I'm depressed because my boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me, but we're talking life and death. They have a different perspective than most egotistical high school kids, because I like high school kids. That's why I do it every day. I don't think I'm a crappy teacher, but I love the kids and have great relationships with kids. And the kids, a kid that's been through that and seen that, they're gonna care less about what's the new having 20 pairs of Vans, or
right.
Not that Dev has got 20 pairs of Vans. I looked at you because you're a teenager. I'm sorry. And it's stuff like that. And then as Tucker in the hallways, I get angry at kids when I hear them complain. And, I see Tucker in the hallways, always got a smile on his face. He says hi to everybody. And, if he knows you, he knows your voice. And, I was just telling the story in the first part of the show. I was standing in the middle of the hallway and I saw him coming and I wanted to get out of the way, but then somebody pulled my attention. I turned around and he whacked me with his walking stick. Yeah, he smacked me and he ran into me and I said, I'm sorry, Tucker, I was in your way. He's like, yeah, you better be sorry. And I was like, I'm sorry, buddy. And I take up a big chunk of the hallway, I guess. But he came and whacked and I was like, oh, dang.
Yeah, I think there's some scars, Tucker's cane all over the school. He does great. His attitude has always been good. So yeah, and the schools have been great. I mean, the support and including him, 20 years ago, there's no way he would have been able to do mainstream school.
And we've got he's got a Braille specialist, and she does all his notes and books, and he learns how to.
It's amazing.
It's a great system. Yeah, they have been incredible.
She does a good job.
Very lucky with the support of the whole district all the way through. I've never had to ask for a thing. They just know, what he needs next. And I mean, stuff that it's been great for me. I've talked with other people in other districts and around that have, really had to battle for services and kind of do a lot of that work on their own. And so.
Is he a junior? Is that what what's his plan? Was he college next?
So, no, not immediately. We're kind of been actually working on a transition plan. So he has an IEP, obviously, with all of his learning needs. So under that, he kind of qualifies for what they call like a, delayed diploma or held diploma or something. So he'll actually qualify for 2 years of services after he graduates, what they call transition services. So we're kind of working on what that's going to look like. In all of the surgery, Tucker had total of 7 open brain surgeries through all of that. So, it's like the coral reef. You mess with it and it's probably not going to work like it did before.
Right.
So, kids are resilient. He recovered much better than most adults would, is what, I was always told that they do much better, and they still got growth and development to help them out through that. But, and then with the radiation, we kind of knew that there would be some cognitive, struggles and limits. So, kind of looks like maybe more kind of need to get some life skills underway. I mean, just learning how to live more independently blind. That takes a lot of time. That's the big thing with him, is he can do a lot of cool stuff. It just takes him a lot longer to learn it. So we just have to really build that in. So the State School for the Blind is in Kansas City, Kansas. It's actually just about an hour from here. He's done a lot of their summer programs. He does summer school over there every year. And they've got a transition program where they actually have a dorm and some little apartment setups.
Awesome.
So kind of looking at that for him for that year after school, and then bringing him back to Lawrence. There's some programs here. Project Search is one that we're kind of looking at to kind of get him some job skills and look at what he can do independently. That's our big push, is how independent can we get this guy that's got a lot of stuff. He does not want his mom tagging around with him forever, amazingly. So he's pretty annoyed most of the time, like most teenagers. But
all right, well, let's take a quick break and come back. Or are we wrapping for the week? I don't know. Okay, we'll take a quick break. I don't know.
We're going to do another one. Yeah.
All right, we're back.
All right.
Devin's going to go get some munchers.
Devin's
he's hungry.
Hit that little thing, sprinted up the stairs to get some donuts.
All right, Jill. Another reason why we're super excited to talk to you. You have been all out gung-ho on the charity miles. As of today, you're at a 106. I'm sorry, I don't want to short you. 121 miles.
She's like, wait,
and you're number 6 on the leaderboard.
That's right. I finally caught Coach Dietrich this week.
Who's next?
Yeah.
So who's ahead of her? Eric Streeter, he's a student he's a freshman at Free State. And I said, how the hell are you getting all these miles? You do not have time to do this. He said, I can't stop moving. So I go to the wrestling tournaments and turn my phone on and just walk around the whole time. And he gets I bet he walks 9 to 10 miles at these wrestling tournaments. And this is while wrestling. I was like, are you sticking that thing and strap it to your body when you're wrestling? It's awesome.
Faces around.
Yeah. They got to do road work as wrestlers. They got to do their conditioning. And then Dalton Gabb, who's a former football player, is a Marine, and he's stationed in Afghanistan right now. So I think they just go work out and walk around the base, and then there's me. and Amy Landon, who's the sister of one of my good friends. She's in the Navy. And I think that she's got a couple of the people in her and her husband, I believe, are in the Navy. I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to get all kinds of messages.
You already got the soldier correction.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And then Matthew Gant. No one's catching him.
Nope.
Where's Steve on that list?
Steve is.
So basically, we need to just enlist.
120.
Right.
No kidding.
We're going to catch everybody.
120. But he's a
Okay,
freak, though.
Yeah.
He is
Like
freak of nature.
freak.
Where am I at a dead last, bro?
No, you're on the leaderboard. You're like in the
I
hundreds.
love how many
Yeah, I'm not good.
just added every day.
I have people that
growing.
never ran.
Mhm.
They're like, no. And they're like, I got 2 miles today. I ran outside for the first time in 10 years. That is so awesome.
It's awesome. It makes you. It's just another accountability
You
thing.
see
You're like,
progress. You're on a team.
I don't want to do this today. But
Right.
I'm number 6.
Yes, you are, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and I were going at it for
Yeah.
a while. And then I'm like, I'm trying to follow like an actual program on
Yeah.
there.
Your lady friend's at 30.
Yeah.
All right. I'm dead last. I just got a Garmin watch.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to start that little accountability right on my wrist. I don't know, but it's going to help somewhat.
It
I'm
does.
hoping.
I asked my parents for an Apple Watch. I'm 37 years old.
Those things are
There you go.
$500.
They said, why don't you buy it yourself?
I do. I have an older one, not the new fancy.
So that's like with the data right on your wrist.
Yeah.
You can't help.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've only taken 400 steps. Yeah, like, I'm gonna start moving.
Yeah.
I got done with 10 miles, and then like a couple hours later, I was sitting there watching the basketball game, and my watch told me to get up and walk, and I was like,
You're
"You've
like,
got to be kidding me right now! I didn't do enough." But
You need to take
it does.
Rest
I know
hashtag.
that. Because you feel
Because
bad.
it makes you.
Yeah.
guilted by technology.
Wow. I love it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
A couple people have asked me on the charity miles. There's a money ticker up in that right corner. Is that where's the support coming from?
So
And are we really? This is really working.
So
right?
I have been in contact with the owner, the guy who started it, Gene Kirchhoff, and I actually asked him to come on the podcast.
Great.
He kindly ignored my request, he very professionally kind of danced around the whole issue. I was impressed by it. Gene doesn't know, like, I do these speeches and stuff for the hospital and go around, and he doesn't know that, I was a former stand-up comic, so I really know how to talk to people. And I was like, man, he dodged that question like a champ, man. I think though, as we grow, he definitely come on, and whether, we got some professionalism stuff. We got we need a video board and stuff. And, we're trying to do this grassroots. We're not trying to go get corporate sponsors in there, but yes. Okay.
Not yet.
So,
But if you want to be a sponsored corporation,
yes. Okay.
Yes.
So
Bring it on.
Please. Yeah.
this is all time. So it's on average 3 cents a mile. So, whatever 5,000 plus miles. But when you hit into whatever your workout is, so today, Athleta is going to be the sponsor for our race, and they'll donate the pennies or whatever. And then, sometimes it's Verizon Wireless, sometimes it's Sprint, and then they're the ones that donate. Basically, it just becomes a free advertising, obviously either their Siri or whatever microphone they turn on to listen to me talk they obviously know that I shop for stuff for my wife regularly because they've got the women's fitness clothing on there, and right in the middle of the screen it's shop new arrivals. So it's basically a Devin, what do they call it? When they basically
targeted advertisement.
Yeah, exactly. They are trying to. They're tracking what you do, and then that's how it works. Now, the owner I had a great conversation with him via email. So he said, so there's this little form right here, get pledges. And so we can decide. So like our goal was 1 million miles by the marathon. Aries got her 3,000 for
million miles.
1 million. Did I say $1 million?
Yeah.
Dollars.
$1 million by December 5th. And, it's a lofty goal. We're a month in and we're not even, there's a tip of the iceberg and it's like an ice cube that won't even fill your drinking glass. But, and people keep asking, how do we get involved? So I've thought maybe we should talk to people that we know that work for corporations that would be willing to, hey, if you get to 238,000 miles, we'll give you $5,000, we'll give you $10,000. And that's kind of how you do it. I'll probably talk to him again, but see, like they'll adjust so like right now I put 1,000 miles on there and then 25 cents a mile. So then we can send that out to people on social media or email. And
because I think some people have gotten confused that if they're running the miles, it's going to TeamGrit. I think there's been some people that are like, oh, well, I'm putting the miles.
Well,
so
they
does that go?
Technically are.
But like for our
Like our
fundraisers,
goal.
our goals,
Okay.
like with our runs, we need those to go actually to our donation sites.
Yeah, probably, but
clarification that probably needs to be made
With
on that.
on the St. Jude run
Right, on
stuff.
the St. Jude run, like the one that I'm doing in July, and then
And I am doing, I'm official as of last week. I pulled the trigger on Nashville again.
Okay. So you're doing
So,
half
and
marathon.
I would like to
Do it for
parlay
Team
that
Grit.
over to you guys.
That's
I talked
easy.
to Tuck about it, and he was like, absolutely.
Okay.
So, yeah.
We need to talk to Carrie Williams at Alsac downtown, and she'll
I
take care of
think
all that
that
for us.
she is the contact that I got on
Yep.
my form.
She can
Yeah,
take care
so-
of all that for
Okay,
us, and
great.
for yours
Yep.
too. Although I think who sponsors is there a corporate sponsor? Like hers is the rock and roll.
Yeah,
CSG.
and it's so
is that part of the rock and roll
same series. Yeah, rock
So
and roll
it
series
is possible that. See, what happens is rock and roll takes the money and
Right.
makes the donation in rock
Right.
under rock and roll's name. So,
right.
but I think they can finagle it.
Yeah.
That's because
try.
Steve
Yeah.
is doing the. I don't know if
The
I'm supposed to.
DC.
If I say this on air, and
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't know.
supposed to. Tell me, we'll fix it
Let it out.
later. Yeah, we'll let it out later. Ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry. Steve's doing the Marine Corps Marathon in DC, and that's going to count towards our goal.
Right.
So they
Awesome.
can do it.
Okay. I'm sure. I'm sure
yeah.
they'll find a way to take our money.
Yeah. Well, yes, they will. Trust me. Yeah. So and then Coach Dietrich's wife is going to run the marathon in December. She's all signed up.
Great.
And I guess her dad does everything that she does. So we've got that. Our nurse practitioner from St. Jude is going to run it with us.
Awesome.
So I wanted to get 100 people to do it, not necessarily the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're growing. Big Mike. Do you know who Big Mike is?
Uh-huh.
Big Mike is going to try to do the 10K.
Awesome.
And that guy killed it last week of that run.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. He did the whole 5 miles.
He got me moving. Like after I was like, dang.
Now his
Impressive.
miles haven't increased this week, so he must be resting. But I understand.
Gotta have your rest.
I wanted him to walk, and he's like, not doing it.
Yeah.
I
He's
was like,
great.
mhm.
I was driving the streets of Bend just to get some footage and stuff, and like he's going. Like it was awesome
Yeah,
to see. Like
just-
he didn't quit.
We gave him every opportunity to meet us at the
Yep.
half the letters and just come
He
and
wasn't
stay
even
with us.
listening
He's
to
like,
it.
nope,
Nope.
keep going.
He finished it. It was
Keep going.
fantastic.
And then in good old Marine fashion, Matt just waited the whole time and made sure he's like, we can't leave him behind.
You can't leave
I know,
behind
I
a soldier.
believe- I believe that. You soldiers do stuff like that.
Yeah, not a soldier. He's a Marine.
He's a Marine. I'm a Marine. Yeah. So that's great question, and I'm figuring that out right now. I think it may end up being a combination of both. If we get start getting pledges from people, and then so maybe our $1 million for TeamGrit for the marathons will come down, but we'll meet it
That way too.
this way.
Yeah.
But the goal is to be able to present St. Jude with a donation, a very large donation.
We need a big styrofoam check.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Hell
I want to
yeah.
see one of those things in person.
And Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it to be recognized. I just want to pay back what I'll never be able to pay back myself.
I feel you. It's incredible. And they are it for research for pediatric cancer, but not just pediatric. Their protocols, they're it. They are the hub of, tons of stuff for adult protocols. The Mayo Clinic's running them. Hospitals all over are running protocols that are being developed there with their research. They're it. So
but it's just so amazing. When Grit had his surgery last year, and we came up on our first scan in April. And we were nervous as hell because the cancer had come back in the lung, and you never know, because then they got to check the bones again to make sure it hasn't spread into there, and all those things that you fear. Basically, all the death sentence things that you fear. Well, it was clear, which was great. Obviously, at this point, it was clear. But they also told us that they had found the super T cells for immunotherapy, and they started going in trials. And we'd been earmarked. If it ever comes back, we've got a slot ready to go. And I think that's in partnership with Sloan Kettering in New York City. And then there's another hospital in Texas that they're all, they're sending all the data and dissecting it. And that immunotherapy stuff, that's a game changer.
It's a big, it's the new push.
Speaking, you can talk about this political stuff. Politically speaking, they know what's coming down the pike, because when presidential candidates start talking about, I'm going to be the one that cures cancer, they know it's there. They know it's coming down the pike. And, and it sucks that we're still saying that, but I guess with the exception of children, us as adults, we kind of give ourselves cancer with all our bad habits and things that we do, and not everybody's like that, it's just the luck of the draw sometimes. But politically speaking, 4% of funding is for pediatric. 4% of all cancer funding, only 4%.
That's just not acceptable at all.
No.
I think if you go, anybody who spent any time in a oncology unit at a children's hospital, whether that's in Kansas City or Wichita, or if you step foot on St. Jude's campus, it's hard to not fall in love with the spirit and everything that they do. So
makes it easier to give back a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely does. It keeps you motivated and, priority. I mean, it's just, it will be every, I'm dropping pennies in every little thing with a St. Jude emblem on it.
They get
incredible. Yeah. And they do. I tell people though, the St. Jude commercials are kind of like the ASPCA commercials. And I don't want to see that, but it is just like their advertisements. It is like that when you walk in there. It is. Those are not actors. Those are people we've seen in the hallways. It is like that. It is magic. And I don't know what it is, but it is. And it's incredible.
What was
one of a kind?
Do you remember what it was like as you're coming in? Did you drive or fly?
The first time we flew.
Okay.
Yeah, we flew the first few times. We've started driving since then because it's harder to get in and out of there. But
when you were flying in, do you remember seeing the campus from the flight and stuff and looking down?
Yeah, it's like because I got goosebumps right now. It's just like this light, and this is got some things around there.
Not on the top of anybody's vacation list.
It's not, but you know what? All the kind of rough stuff aside, city loves St. Jude. I mean, even the homeless people who cross the street,
write that out.
We love our St. Jude kids.
Yeah.
The whole city really does kind of gather around that place. So
it's a beautiful thing. I told our high school kids that I said, if you guys get a group of kids that want to come do the 10K or the half or even the full marathon, I said, I will call a whole local school down there, and I promise you that we can get somebody to let us camp out in their school. So we have, it's December. It's only for a couple days. We might interrupt gym class or something.
I bet somebody at the hospital could put you in place.
There might even be as
the university to their storms.
You get people listen. You talk about finding a way. That's why St. Jude's, they'll find a way, So
it's just like, I just keep going back to when you were talking again, nothing super negative about local treatment that you got or whatever. And I even had somebody reach out to me on social media and say, why are you doing that for St. Jude? You need to be doing it for Children's Mercy or something like that. And it just really caught me off guard. Again, I've gone with Laura to Children's Mercy, amazing care. I don't know how those nurses do it. They are fantastic. Again, nothing bad, but listening to you say you just walked in and it was just like magic and you saw it work. I'm seeing it work. So where am I going to give my time, energy, and money to what you see? You saw it work. You're seeing it work.
And
that's what I'm going to do.
That's going there, and it's making that place. It's going to make that place what it is forever. I think they're like Betty White. They're never going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been that forever.
Still hot and funny.
And that's what it's set up to be. The theme. It's not ever going to change. I'm very, very solid on that. But this money is helping them do what they do there, but it's helping them do all this other stuff. So it sort of trickle down is helping Children's Mercy.
Yes, it does help Children's Mercy.
Letting Children's Mercy keep them home, for some treatments in between and do that. Where people, used to have to just live there. Right. We've met people that sold their homes and moved to Memphis for
that's what if we have to go back, I'm not letting Ella live without her mom another year. We'll move. And even if that means they all move and I stay here and drive back, because we can't get rid of our insurance at this point, but if it's not going to happen, but if it happens, we'll move whether they put us there or Texas or New York, and we're not breaking this. We can break up for a week, and that sucks too.
Yeah.
But
it's rough.
That people like you said, you were finishing nursing school. I was full-time master's student that whole time.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
how you guys can do that.
And
you just do.
You
were saying people say to you all the time, you just I don't know how you did it. I can do it, and you can though. You don't have a choice, and you do it. And sometimes you look back and are like, wow,
drive back and forth.
Look at me.
Yeah, I'm still alive. Right? My heart didn't.
I don't
explode.
remember
It almost
that
did.
period of time.
Yeah, it's nuts, and that's kind of why I asked you, like, when you were on the flight, and you saw the campus and it kind of lights up the melancholy surroundings of downtown Memphis. But they're doing all kinds of what do they call that? Renaissance. No, there's Memphis. No,
that river.
Yeah, they're redoing all that, and there's going to be more housing available and more places to do research. And I remember we left at like 3:00 in the morning because our appointment was at 2:00, and we're driving, and you get into basically you come out of the Ozarks and the rest of the drive sucks until you get to then you start to see the rivers and then St. Jude, you see the pyramid.
Yeah, you go across that huge bridge.
And then the St. Jude sign lights up, and you instantly feel hopeful. You instantly feel hopeful, and it's a pretty surreal feeling. And then you get there, and it's like They check in. Oh, well, here's where you go. You go in, you get checked in. They pull you into your room. They talk to you. They tell you, this is what we're going to do. Then you got to sign your life away on stuff.
But they do it all for you. That was what I was braced for, having to work all these appointments and talk to all these different places because, I'm guessing you guys do too. You have 16 different actual offices or facilities you have to go into within the building, but they do it all. You're just like, okay. And then, they call you and they're like, hey, we saw you're done in oncology. We've got opening in PT if you want to come in early. Like, just made my day better. Yeah. And I didn't even have to do anything to get focus on it.
And they give you the itinerized schedule every day. They give you your week's appointments. And every time I'm there, it's like, hey, we need you to come speak to this person. Are you up for it? And they, at this point, they know that I don't say no. So.
Sucker.
We're going to come to you.
Yeah, well, I've had some pretty unique opportunities, and it's kind of why this was born. We got good people that believe in it, and
it's great.
It's important for people to hear these stories. In my dream world, we'd travel around the country interviewing patient families and St. Jude heroes that raise money every day, and maybe that'll happen. We don't know, but this is important stuff, and it's important to a lot of people. And if St. Jude gets something figured out, like we said earlier, it does benefit Children's Mercy.
Right.
It does benefit
adult hospitals and adult
all that stuff,
cancer protocols and.
So when is the Nashville half marathon?
Last weekend in April, 25th.
Oh, wow.
So it's soon. Yeah.
Plenty of time to train for the St. Jude marathon.
Yeah. Just keep it going. It's on my radar. I don't know. We talked about it. I don't know if my body's built for it, which is lame because it's all it's so mental.
I think I weigh more than both of you put together.
It is mental.
First, I did one 2 years ago. Same one in Nashville. Nashville is kind of a home away from home for us. We have some friends there. Scott, my much better half, plays music and has a lot of connections there. So we've been there several times. So it was kind of a best of both worlds. It's kind of one of my favorite cities.
Yeah.
And we have friends there. So I did it 2 years ago. Amazing. Just incredible experience. I can only imagine that Memphis will be huge. And you're doing Chicago.
I'm doing Chicago.
I've heard it's great. Yeah. They're all great. The rock and roll runs are very well put on. Huge, but well organized. It's mania on race day, but
which I think is a huge factor. Like when you're running, it's just the atmosphere and the adrenaline, and everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
That's just amazing.
I don't know. I've heard other. I think I just talked to a girl who did one in Phoenix, and she said it's the desert, and they don't have a lot of town, as much town to run through. It's actually kind of out by Scottsdale. Anyway, the whole town's usually it's like a parade. They make signs. Kids are handing out popsicles. There was some college guys handing out little shooters of beer as you were running and stuff. It's just you can't. I mean, you're hurting, but you cannot be having a good time.
I'm so excited.
It's great.
Excited.
And then when
your attitude's changed.
I know.
Well, stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah. When you're signed up for to actual be part of the St. Jude part, you get the kind of after party and the food tent and the massage. The whole thing. The expo is great. Make sure you get a lot of time there. It's awesome. It's super fun.
I signed up I was asked to apply for the platinum waiver, and it's like a minimum of $7,500, and I wasn't worried about getting. I'm kind of worried at this point, but it'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. But right now I'm worried. But I said, hey, can we auction that off to somebody? Somebody who's got some buckets of money that was willing to pay $20,000 for it so they can get the nice hotel suite. And so I don't need that. I said, I'll sleep on the river for a couple of days. I don't care. So that's
that's awesome.
So
but
they won't let me.
Yeah. I signed up for the silver level, but I do, like I said earlier, I want to parlay that into the TeamGrit stuff. So
we'll get with Carrie. I think we can do it. I don't think it'll be a problem. And I talk to them all the time. And at this point, I've done enough favors for them. They're starting to do favors for me, and I don't ask for anything too.
You get back.
Well, it's all to benefit them.
So we there's St. Jude's doing a leadership institute, and we've got a few Free State kids that are going to it. And I'll speak at that with some other people. I've spoke at the Partner Summit, and then there's the gala this May 16th or something. And there's all kinds of stuff and I just really enjoy doing it, spreading awareness. And the best part about doing this podcast is I'm learning about other people's stories and journeys. So I can now add that into there.
Yeah.
And it's just been so cool to be passionate. I'm so passionate about this that I was asked to. I've always wanted to be a head high school football coach, and for the first time, I've become sought after, and I turned it down because I want to do this.
You got an offer?
Well, I didn't get. They asked me to apply for the job.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I got this. This is what I want to do. And my wife was shocked.
She got shocked too.
But I'm in. I'm all in. I've drank the poison Kool-Aid, or it's not poison, but I'm in. I want this. This is what I want for the rest of my life and this team, and make sure kids like Grit and Tucker